Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 10 of Doom Patrol. Yeah, we're kind of, I guess you could say, in the home stretch of this, because after this episode, we only have 5 more of the season. Um, and I had talked about in a previous one about possibly holding off on it, watching something else in the meantime, and then coming back, but I chose not to by the end of that. Um, I think that was 2 episodes ago, because I think it was the Danny one. But I'm not sure. But either way, um, we're closing in on the end here in just basically a few more weeks, I guess you could say. And I'm just wondering, like, how are they going to close out this season? Because every episode seems to have its own little mini focus while still connecting things from previous episodes. But at the same time, there can be episodes and episodes that have nothing to do with Mr. Nobody or anything or whatnot. And it's like, I'm just wondering how all of it's going to connect in the end and how they're going to eventually defeat Mr. Nobody, if they even do that this season. I don't know if they will. I don't know if this show's going for a seasonal enemy or just an overarching enemy. Um, Definitely interested to find out, though. But last time, we also went into the underground, the mind of Jane, and got to meet a couple more of her personalities, got to see some of the personalities we've already known as she actually interprets them, as they interpret themselves and each other, their true appearances, basically. And we got to have Cliff help Jane overcome a little bit of her past trauma. And of course, it's not enough. It's not enough to fully get rid of it because trauma doesn't heal that easily, even with help from people you care about. Trauma is something that sticks with you, and one victory like this won't fix that. It'll help, but it won't actually fix things. It's just a single victory. In a lot of ways, you can't fully get over trauma. Well, depending on the trauma. There's a lot of traumas that you just cannot get over completely ever, and that you just have to do your best to keep fighting through it. And there's some traumas that just it takes multiple victories to defeat. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do with it here. I'm kind of thinking it's the former, though, that Jane's never going to truly be free from this. But that with Cliff's help, with the help of all the others in the group, she's going to be able to get to a point where she can just survive better, just live through it. That's what I'm thinking and hoping, at least. Um, for a show that centers so heavily on traumas, on mental disorders, and a lot of just issues people have just through their everyday lives and through all of that. I really want to see this show tackle this tactfully. Because I really do believe it can, and I really do believe that it's important for it to do so. Because mental health is a very touchy subject, but it needs to be talked about. And we need to make sure we talk about it right. And if we include it in our shows, we need to make sure that the shows like talk about it right. And so I'm glad. I'm glad that so far it seems to be doing that. I'm just wondering, where is this going to go now? What is going to happen next? Because we've gotten Jane back. It seems like everything's going to, at least to some degree, go a little better with that and all, and back to normal with that, as normal as it gets with this crew. Um, but we'll have to see for sure. We'll have to see exactly how it goes down. I'm definitely interested. Definitely interested, especially since we only have 5 episodes left in the season after this one. As usual, I know nothing about what's to come for these episodes. Um, Especially this one. It's just like I just don't know anything about where it's going at the moment. Definitely excited to find out though. So we are going to just do so. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked up Max Martini. He's the actor who played Alistair, Niles' friend from the Bureau of Oddities / Normalcy. And because I had mentioned the reaction, it's like his voice sounds familiar, but he doesn't look familiar. So I was wondering if I knew him from any voice acting roles. And I know him from literally one thing. And I can't believe I recognized his voice from that one thing, because it's been actually quite a while since I've seen it. And that is the 2017 My Little Pony Friendship is Magic movie. He's not in the series at all. He's specifically only in the movie. He was one of the pirate parrots working under Captain Solano. The character's name was Boyle. I somehow recognized his voice from that. And again, I haven't actually watched that in quite a while. Probably over a year. Actually, definitely over a year. Probably not since 2019. Um, but yeah, it's wild. It's wild that of all things, it's like that's what I recognized him from. um, but anyways, so there are really two sides to this story, to this episode. There was the events of the past involving Niles and his love, and there was the events of the current day involving the Beard Hunter and Cyborg and Rita. So let's talk about the past stuff first. So Niles was a member of the Bureau of Oddities, which was a government institution dedicated to exploration and discovery of odd things. Somewhere down the line, during the war, it seems, that started up, they ended up switching their focus and became the Bureau of Normalcy, choosing to turn their back on oddities and criminalize them, basically. However, during this time, Niles was lost in the north. I don't think it said exactly where he was at, but he and his friend had gone there searching for this myth back when it was the Bureau of Oddities still. And they ended up getting attacked by wolves. Niles fled, leaving his friend seemingly to die in a moment of panic. And during that, he ends up meeting the creature they were trying to find, but finds out that it was no more than a construct created by this seemingly immortal cave woman, um, a literal Neanderthal from ancient times who had somehow survived all these centuries and centuries and all later. He ends up getting helped by her. She helps him heal his injured leg, and she even teaches him to hunt and to gather and to just survive off the land. And he loves it. He ends up actually really growing attached to it and to her, to the point where they actively become a couple. Like, very actively become a couple. Like, they fuck. We got a glimpse of that. Um, but he then during this is years after this all happened, after having spent these years with her and everything, he's gathering and all hunting, and he ends up coming across his friend, the same friend who he thought had died all those years ago. And that's when he finds out about the war and that the Bureau of Oddities had become the Bureau of Normalcy. And in order to protect his love, he leads his old friend onto the ice that he had fallen through before, using it to his advantage, and lets his old friend drown in order to keep the cave woman safe. However, he had heard that his friend had come with a group, and so in order to make sure she stayed safe, he, instead of choosing to go back to her, went to the group who would be hunting her. He convinced them, and eventually convinced the higher-ups of the Bureau as well, that there was nothing there, that it was a lost cause and that they should head back. And we find out at this point that all of this memory, seeing all of this, was not just a visual thing for us as not just a thing for us as viewers to see, like, oh, this all happened in Niles' past, but it was actually Mr. Nobody who was looking into Niles' memories. But there's one thing that he, for some reason, can't find out. Despite all of his just godly powers, the one thing Mr. Nobody can't discover is where this woman is. And the fact that he wants to know concerns me. Is he working with the Bureau of Normalcy somehow? I wouldn't think they would work with someone like him, but maybe they are for this sake, or maybe he has a different reason for wanting to find this seemingly immortal cave woman. And so it's kind of curious. And Niles is refusing to give her up, of course. He's refusing to respond to anything regarding that because he's not, he loves her still, I'm sure. So I'm just wondering, like, what is the reason that Mr. Nobody wants to find her? Because he seemed like very insistent on that. I don't know. Meanwhile, we get the second part of this episode. There's this guy who apparently is obsessed with beards because he can't grow one because he has some kind of glandular disorder. And because of it, he's become this beard hunter. He has this superpower allowing him to absorb the memories and knowledge and all of that of a person if he eats their hair. And apparently facial hair actually provides a stronger reaction. But either way, if he eats their hair, he can know pretty much everything about them, and he's even able to track them based on their beards. So he ends up being hired by the Bureau of Normalcy to track down Niles, which getting the other side of the story in this episode as well makes it really interesting that they're tracking him down, basically since he used to be a part of them. So it's really getting interesting now, and I'm glad we're getting more into the Bureau of Normalcy because I definitely wanted to learn more about them after the Danny Patrol episode. Um, so the Beard Hunter ends up tracking things to the mansion where he fishes out drain scum containing Niles's beard hair from a sink in the bathroom and eats it. And I was on the verge of like wanting to puke at that. Like I've seen some pretty gross stuff in shows and games and animation and whatnot. But that's just that bothered me. Um, so either way, he passes out after eating it and is found by Rita and Vic, who interrogate him. And he's just got all the answers. He's a smooth ass motherfucker, despite being creepy and weird. Um, they head out, but one of Vic's beard hairs apparently falls off. And so while they're not in the room, he knocks over the chair he's tied to and inhales the beard hair, which gives him all the information on Vic as well. And there's a little chase, and Vic's processors or whatever are going haywire as they have been, just getting a lot worse. And yeah, he ends up getting away, but not before Rita can bug him. So I guess we're going to be following him as things go along. I looked his character up as well. Apparently, he only appeared in one Doom Patrol comic. And apparently, the entire thing about connecting to the brainstem or whatnot through the facial hair was created for this series that wasn't originally in the comic. I didn't look up too much other information or anything because obviously I don't want to be spoiled just in case. Because there might not be, he might not appear much again, like in the comics, but I could end up accidentally finding out something about another character, so I wanted to be cautious still. So I didn't look up too much other information about him just in case. But yeah, um, it was pretty interesting. It was pretty interesting for sure. It was weird, it was creepy, it was gross, but it was interesting. And it definitely seems like we might be heading in that direction now. And all of this with the Beard Hunter was happening at the same time that Cliff was in the underground trying to save Jane and eventually helping succeed in saving Jane. So yeah, kind of got to see what was going on the other side of things with this episode. Which, I mean, I like it when shows do that, so I'm all good with it. Either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Doom Patrol. What did you think of Niles and the Cave Woman's honestly kind of adorable romance? I won't lie, it was kind of adorable. What did you think of the information we got about the Bureau of Oddities / Normalcy? And what did you think about the Beard Hunter? Mm-hmm. Leave your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.